You ever see a teenage movie where you watch this one guy who's kind of a loser chase a girl over and over and over again, and that girl ends up going after that jock? You know, I'm talking about that guy who has it all, the nice hair, plays football in high school. He's the most popular guy in school. And then finally the girl realizes what's good for her and decides to choose the really nice guy who's the protagonist of the story. Well, I feel like that's exactly what happened with the Minnesota Timberwolves and D'Angelo Russell. You know, D'Angelo Russell being the really pretty girl, the Golden State Warriors being the jock, the Timberwolves being the loser protagonist. I don't care what you say, this is the greatest analogy I've ever made on my YouTube channel. So what's going on, guys? Your boy TheFlightmike backing in our second upload of the day. If you guys made it to our first upload today, we talked a little bit about the Jimmy Butler, Joel Embiid Instagram post. And if you missed that, I highly recommend you watch it. It's a take that I don't think any analyst has made so far, but I feel like if you're a Sixers fan that you would definitely appreciate. So I'm going to leave a link to that in the description down below. Now, really quickly, guys, if you watch a lot of my content, but you haven't subscribed yet, please take a moment to subscribe. Your boy is now on the full-time YouTube grind, baby. Yes, I've been pumping out 2 videos a day on this channel, a video a day on Microphone, my NFL channel, been posting on the TikTok at TheFlightmike, and I've been posting onto Instagram at TheFlightmike daily. So if you want to support my grind and support my dream, make sure you're followed on those platforms, as I have some very exciting analysis to bring to you guys. So we know about the D'Angelo Russell, Andrew Wiggins trade, a trade that I think is really starting to pay off for both sides. Andrew Wiggins was an absolute monster in his first 2 games. He's starting to really fulfill his potential, and I made a video explaining why Andrew Wiggins was going to succeed on the Golden State Warriors. But unfortunately, D'Angelo Russell wasn't involved in the Timberwolves demolishing of the Los Angeles Clippers. As a matter of fact, the player that got most of the spotlight that game was Malik Beasley. It's crazy, man. Malik Beasley came out and told Denver, I want more playing time. They refused. They traded him to Minnesota, and he's already beginning to pay off some dividends for the Minnesota Timberwolves. But I digress. I know why you guys clicked on this video. It's for D'Angelo Russell, so let's jump into it. Last night, the Minnesota Timberwolves went up against the Toronto Raptors, and it was D'Angelo Russell's very first game with his childhood friend Karl Anthony Towns. And they're so cute about how they're doing this, man. They're very hyped up. D'Angelo Russell and Karl Anthony Towns bought like 1,000 tickets to the Minnesota Timberwolves game on Friday night, and they're giving them out for free. It's going to be available on a first come, first served basis, but I feel like they already gave them all away. This is for D'Angelo Russell's debut against the Hornets at Target Center. They really want to bring the hype and set the tone for this new regime. And of course they do, man. They're best friends. They want this to work out as much as they possibly can. I'm just really hyped from the energy I'm seeing from Karl Anthony Towns and D'Angelo Russell. I'm really excited to see the future of these two guys. And I have a lot of analysis to bring from D'Angelo Russell's first game that's going to give you an idea of how these players are going to play. Now, here's what D'Angelo Russell had to say about his game. He scored 22 points off of 7 of 12 shootings. He had 4 threes, 5 assists, a steal, and 6 turnovers in 32 minutes of play. And despite his relatively impressive showing, it's clear. One thing is extremely clear. This was D'Angelo Russell's first game. I don't know if he even had a chance to practice with the Minnesota Timberwolves. So those 6 turnovers could be limited just by being a little bit more familiar with the offense. But here's what D'Angelo Russell had to say about his first game with the Minnesota Timberwolves before we jump into the X's and O's. He said, it's a whole new group, so the chemistry is going to develop within time. And this is, of course, according to The Athletic's John Krasinski. Time's on our side right now. We're not in a playoff race or anything like that. We're just worried about us. The more games and more practice and more film sessions we can get underneath our belt, the better we'll be. And that's so true. They're just not familiar with each other yet. So there's going to be time for them to get familiar with one another. And D'Angelo Russell actually went ahead and spoke on his relationship with Karl Anthony Towns. And he says, we know what we bring to the table. It's just about dissecting the film and bringing it together and seeing how we can take the weight off of each other's shoulders down the stretch whenever we need him to make a play, and vice versa. So now that we got all of that stuff out of the way, I know why you guys are here. Let's jump into the X's and O's, man, because the Minnesota Timberwolves went up against a very difficult opponent in the Toronto Raptors. And Even though that they lost, I am very impressed by what I saw from D'Angelo Russell because he's bringing to the Minnesota Timberwolves something that Andrew Wiggins couldn't in this offensive scheme. And the very first play, the very first points of the game, we see D'Angelo Russell's effect on the game, as D'Angelo Russell was able to drive it in easily and get his first buckets as a Timberwolf. Now, here's the one thing I wanted to point out to you guys, and I mentioned this in my trade video, and I mentioned this in my Andrew Wiggins video. Andrew Wiggins couldn't succeed in Minnesota because of spacing. You had Karl Anthony Towns in the paint. Whenever you have a big man and a player that succeeds at slashing primarily, you're going to have some problems. We are seeing something like that in Philadelphia right now. So the fact that D'Angelo Russell can, of course he could slash, but that's not the main part of his game. D'Angelo Russell likes to do the driving in. He likes pulling up from mid-range. He likes pulling up from three. He likes taking deep shots, as we see in the very next play of this game. I feel like D'Angelo Russell's skill set suits the Minnesota Timberwolves significantly better than Andrew Wiggins' does. And at the same time, I feel like Andrew Wiggins' skill set fits the Golden State Warriors way better than D'Angelo Russell's skill set. And that's why I think this trade was a home run for both teams. The very next time we see D'Angelo Russell, we see him taking an insanely deep three-point jumper, man. This guy definitely got this from like Steph Curry or something from the Golden State Warriors. This is exactly what we want to see from D'Angelo, either driving it in or taking those deep threes. The fact that he could make them at a consistent basis means that the Minnesota Timberwolves are going to be able to create the space that they need to feed Karl Anthony Towns in the post. Now, the one thing I'm the most excited about seeing now that D'Angelo Russell is a member of the Minnesota Timberwolves is this pick and roll he's going to be running with Karl Anthony Towns. He is such an ideal pick and roll partner for Cat. It's not even funny. I always talked about how underrated D'Angelo's ability was to make plays for his teammates. And of course, we didn't really see that much because of course it was his first game with the Timberwolves and he's not familiar with the offense. But look at all the things that the Timberwolves could hit you with in a D'Angelo Russell, Karl Anthony Towns pick and roll. Obviously, if Cat happens to be open, he could dish it to Cat for the wide open lay-in or the wide open take. Or if Cat wants to pop outside, D'Angelo Russell could hit him for the wide open three. But at the same time, D'Angelo Russell is very, very good at pulling up from mid-range. And as we see in this very first pick and roll that he did with Karl Anthony Towns, he was able to get a contested mid-range jumper to go. So just imagine all the options you have here. Imagine how much this is going to open up the offense. And imagine if they happen to do this in transition as well. This is absolutely terrifying, man. Now look, guys, I'm going to keep it honest with you guys because that's how I do it. I always like keeping it real on this channel. A lot of the assists that I saw coming from D'Angelo Russell were just happenstance. Hey, I'm a point guard. I'm going to dish it to this guy who has a semi-wide open three-point jump shot, and he happens to make the jump shot. It wasn't exactly a play that he made. Of course, he hit Juan Hernan Gomez for the wide open three, and I guess you could say he hit him in stride completely so he could hit this three. So I guess you could say that's kind of a play he made, although it was a drawn up play. The one play that I saw that just did an excellent job showcasing D'Angelo Russell's playmaking ability was this assist in the middle of the second quarter to Malik Beasley. You could see that he literally leads Malik Beasley into the painted area and provides him with a wide open basket right next to the hoop. Honestly, it's plays like this, and bear in mind, I know I've said this many times in this video, D'Angelo Russell hasn't had a lot of time to practice with the Timberwolves, and Malik Beasley hasn't either for that matter. I feel like as time progresses forward, you're really going to see the offense open up. You know how Ryan Saunders likes to push the tempo. You put D'Angelo Russell in an offense like that also has a pick and roll with Karl Anthony Towns, and you have a recipe for success and a lot to be excited about if you're a Minnesota Timberwolves fan. Now, the final thing I noticed about D'Angelo Russell's debut, and by the way, I'm going to say this one last time, this is a very incomplete analysis of D'Angelo Russell with the Minnesota Timberwolves. I probably will remake this video in a month from now because he hasn't really had time to absorb the playbook, know where his teammates are going to be at all times. I see a crazy offense ran in the future by D'Angelo Russell that could feature no-look passes and all kinds of crazy stuff once he gets acclimated to the offense, you're taking out a huge part of what makes D'Angelo Russell special in this video. Well, I am taking out a huge part of what makes D'Angelo Russell special in this video by not giving him an opportunity to show us how incredible of a playmaker he is. But here's the final thing that I noticed in his debut, and this is what separates him from Andrew Wiggins. You see these pull-ups from three, man? Literally with the guy in his face? That's what the Timberwolves have always needed. They have a guy that could make shots in crunch time. Whenever you need a bucket and you're like, okay, how can we make points come out of thin air? D'Angelo Russell will do it for you. If you need someone that could take over a game, if you need someone to really put the team on his back when everyone else is ice cold, even if he's shooting 3 for 16, I feel like D'Angelo Russell is that guy. He has that alpha dog mentality. He has that leadership mentality, and he has shown this new maturity to him ever since he signed with the Golden State Warriors. This pull-up from three, if he is caught on fire, this pull-up from three is probably one of the most terrifying jump shots that you can see in the entire NBA. It's Damian Lillard-like almost. Look, I'm going to be honest. The Timberwolves are currently 16-36. They're not going to make a playoff push. They're 11 games back, the final seed in the Western Conference playoff race, if they were to try to make a playoff berth. But here's the good news. I feel like this is a move that can completely change the culture of this team. They finally have a player that is probably not ever going to leave because he's sick and tired of moving from team to team. He's also the best friend of their franchise cornerstone, Karl Anthony Towns. He was the number 2 overall pick in that draft. So you have the best center and the best point guard out of the 2015 NBA draft. But on top of that, you have a player that could deliver in crunch time, that could be vocal in the locker room, that literally absorbed wisdom from great players such as Steph Curry, Klay Thompson, I'm not going to say Draymond Green, but Kobe Bryant, rest in peace. You have a player that knows what it's like to be a leader after he went to the Brooklyn Nets and knows what it takes to change a culture. I feel like D'Angelo Russell is going to completely change the Minnesota Timberwolves. Guys, if you want to check out my NFL content, check out Microphone. It's the first link in the description down below. And check out my latest TikTok. I did like a TikTok Tinder thing, bro. I'm your boy, TheFlightmike, and I'll catch you guys tomorrow, man.